You've heard the name. Maybe you picture muscles, a lion's pelt, or a Disney grin. Hercules, the strongest man in the world. The half-god hero who battled monsters, defied death, and earned a place among the stars. But the truth is, the story of Hercules is not a clean tale of triumph. It's a tragedy soaked in rage, guilt, and manipulation. The ancient Greeks didn't see him as a cartoon hero. They saw him as a man caught between worlds, between divinity and destruction, between forgiveness and fury. And the strangest part? Most of what we believe about Hercules didn't start with him at all. This isn't just a story about a hero. This is about what makes someone human, no matter how strong they seem. So, step into the myth. Let's pull back the curtain on the real Hercules and discover the side of his legend most stories choose to leave out. Born of gods and grief. Hercules, the name conjures up raw strength and lion skin capes. But the real story begins not with power, but with pain. To start, his name wasn't even Hercules. That's the Roman version. The Greeks called him Heracles, glory of Hera. Ironic, since Hera, queen of the gods, hated him from the moment he was born. Hercules was the result of one of Zeus's many affairs. This time, it was with a mortal woman named Alcmene. Zeus disguised himself as her husband, tricked her, and fathered a demigod son. This was the final straw for Hera. The child represented not just Zeus's betrayal, but also a prophecy. Hercules would become a great hero. Hera responded by sending snakes to his crib. But baby Hercules strangled them with his bare hands. Even then, his strength was terrifying. He had a twin brother, Iphicles, fully human and mostly forgotten. Hercules' godly side set him apart, and not in a good way. His strength was uncontrollable. Once, during a music lesson, he killed his teacher, Linus, after being corrected. It wasn't premeditated, it was impulsive and deadly. This pattern would follow him. At 18, Hercules spent 50 nights hunting a lion that terrorized a region. A local king, impressed, arranged for each of his 50 daughters to spend one night with the hero. Hercules believed he was with the same woman each time. Some versions say he slept with them all in one night. Eventually, Hercules found stability. He married Megara, daughter of the Theban king, and had children. But peace never lasted in his life. Hera struck again, this time with madness. Driven into a violent frenzy, Hercules murdered his wife and children. Then the madness lifted and he realized what he'd done. He was consumed with grief. This is the moment most myths rush past. But it matters, because everything that made Hercules a hero, his legendary labors, wasn't about glory. It was about redemption. He wanted to atone. The oracle at Delphi told him to serve King Eurystheus, his cousin, for 12 years. Do whatever he commanded. And so began the 12 labors, his punishment. Hercules knew he could not live with the guilt without atoning. And guilt, it turns out, was something ancient Greeks understood deeply. Hercules wasn't beloved because he was perfect. He was beloved because he was broken and kept going. His rage, his grief, his failures, they were human. According to a 2011 study on classical antiquity, Hercules had shrines in dozens of locations across the Mediterranean. People prayed to him because he understood suffering, not in spite of his mistakes, but because of them. We tend to see him as a cartoon strongman, but the truth? He was a man who had to earn every bit of peace through pain. He carried the weight of his actions like boulders on his back. That's where the real myth begins. The human cost of heroism. After the 12 labors, Hercules was a hero in name, but inside he was exhausted. His legend had grown, spreading across Greece, but he was battered and bruised. The labors had brought him fame, but not rest, and certainly not healing. Many would think the story ends there. A hero completes his tasks and retires, triumphant. But Hercules' life after the labors was filled with more blood, more regret, and more heartbreak. If anything, it grew more tragic. Because now, he wasn't just fighting monsters, he was fighting people, and worse, sometimes himself. Hercules didn't return to a quiet life. Instead, he served kings in brutal wars, resolved feuds, and faced enemies, not because the gods ordered him to, but because his own restless soul couldn't sit still. He remarried, fathered more children, and tried to rebuild his life, but violence clung to him like a shadow. One of the darkest stories is that of Iphitus, a prince who trusted Hercules deeply. When Iphitus's family horses were stolen, he turned to Hercules for help. But during the investigation, Hercules, suddenly struck by madness again, threw Iphitus off a city wall to his death. It wasn't a battle. It was a moment of irritational fury, and Hercules couldn't explain it. This incident shattered him. Killing an enemy in war was one thing. Killing a guest, a friend, by accident, it tore at his identity. He went to the oracle at Delphi for guidance again, but this time she refused to speak to him. Furious and humiliated, Hercules stole her sacred tripod, intending to establish his own oracle. That act alone almost triggered a battle between him and Apollo, the god of prophecy, until Zeus intervened and separated them. Even among gods, Hercules was becoming unstable. The myth rarely pauses to let us feel what Hercules must have felt. Imagine living in fear of your own strength, not knowing if the next time you got angry, someone you loved might die. The Greeks didn't write these stories to show him as evil. They wrote them to show that even the strongest man could be vulnerable to forces beyond his control. Eventually, he met Deianira, his second wife. She was kind and brave, offering him hope for a normal life. But that hope, too, was doomed. On a journey together, they came to a river where the centaur Nessus offered to carry Deianira across. Midway, he tried to assault her. Hercules, from the opposite bank, shot him with an arrow tipped in hydra poison. As Nessus lay dying, he whispered a lie to Deianira, that his blood could act as a love potion, that if Hercules ever strayed, she could use it to bring him back. Desperate to hold on to Hercules' affections years later, after hearing rumors of another woman, Deianira remembered that blood. She soaked a robe in it and sent it to Hercules as a gift. He put it on and screamed. The hydra poison seeped into his skin, burning him alive from the inside out. There was no cure, no god to help him this time. The pain was unbearable. Deianira, realizing what she had done, took her own life in grief. Hercules, too far gone for healing, ordered a funeral pyre to be built. He climbed atop it while still breathing and begged someone to light it. But no one dared, except a poor shepherd named Philoctetes, who agreed in exchange for Hercules' bow and arrows. And so, Hercules died. Or did he? Some myths say only his mortal body burnt, that his divine side, inherited from Zeus, rose into the sky and ascended to Olympus. There, the gods welcomed him. Even Hera, who had hated him from birth, finally forgave him. Hercules married Hebe, goddess of youth, and was made fully divine. But what does this ending mean? It's not a victory, it's a release. Hercules didn't win immortality through pride or ambition. He earned it by enduring pain, loss, and consequence. He didn't become a god because he was perfect. He became a god because he was broken, yet still persevered. The truth is, Hercules was never invincible. Not really. He was strong, yes, but also vulnerable, deeply human, and haunted by what he couldn't undo. His strength was both his gift and his curse. And that's what made the Greeks love him. Not because he always won, but because he tried, again and again and again. What the myths leave out, and what they teach us. We often remember Hercules by the highlights, the labors, the lion skin, his massive strength. Pop culture has polished his story into a heroic adventure, an ancient superhero with muscles, charm, and invincibility. But that image misses something vital, something the original myths never left out: the pain, the complexity, the cost. The ancient Greeks didn't celebrate Hercules because he was perfect. They celebrated him because he was flawed, deeply, and he kept trying. He wasn't a god living among mortals. He was a mortal trying to survive the burdens of godhood. And that's why his story stuck. The sanitized version, the one we see in animated films or comic books, reduces Hercules to brute strength and cheerful confidence. But that's not how his story was told in temples and town squares. To the Greeks, Hercules wasn't the man who always saved the day. He was the man who often caused disaster, and then did everything in his power to make it right. We don't talk much about the emotional toll his life took, about the fact that he was feared by many, that he had to atone over and over, not because the world was unfair, but because he kept losing control. That doesn't make him weak, it makes him real. The Greeks understood that. They didn't want perfect heroes, they wanted heroes they could relate to. One of the most overlooked aspects of his story is the numerous people who helped him. Hercules is often remembered as a lone warrior, but he wasn't. His nephew, Iolaus, helped defeat the Hydra. Philoctetes lit the pyre. Even the gods intervened when they saw him falling too far. These moments remind us that even the strongest need support. No one climbs out of pain alone. We also forget how deeply tied Hercules was to the idea of suffering as transformation. The Greeks had a word for it, pathos. It meant more than just pain. It meant struggle with meaning, suffering that led somewhere. Hercules didn't just endure, he grew, and in doing so, he became a symbol for everyone else trying to carry burdens too heavy to bear. Even his final moment, climbing onto his own funeral pyre, isn't just tragic, it's honest. Hercules couldn't escape what he had become. He didn't beg for rescue, he accepted his fate, and in doing so, the gods finally made room for him among them. That ending isn't a reward, it's the message that redemption doesn't always look like a parade. Sometimes it looks like fire, and peace only comes after you've burned through everything false. Interestingly, Hercules became one of the most widely worshipped figures in the ancient world, not just in Greece, but in Rome, Egypt, and even parts of modern-day Turkey. He was more than a myth. He was a cultural anchor, someone people turned to when life didn't make sense. Why? Because Hercules' life wasn't a fairy tale. It was messy, chaotic, familiar. He was the man who loved deeply but lost control, who made promises but broke them, who wanted peace but found war. And still, he showed up. He fought. He changed. He kept trying to be better. That's the lesson we miss when we focus only on the monsters he slayed. His real battles were internal. The rage he couldn't control, the guilt he couldn't erase, the grief he couldn't express. We all know what it's like to feel like we're carrying too much, like we failed, like we're not sure how to fix what we've broken. That's what Hercules teaches us, not how to win, but how to keep going when we've already lost. His myth says, you're not alone in your mistakes. You're not worthless because you've fallen. You're still worthy of redemption. And perhaps that's why his story continues to resonate with us today. Hercules is more than muscle and myth. He's a mirror, reflecting the parts of ourselves we'd rather hide, but must face to grow. And if he, burdened by gods and haunted by pasts he couldn't fix, could find a way forward, so can we. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about Hercules and other Greek myths, check out our book, Greek Mythology, a captivating introduction to Greek myths of Greek gods, goddesses, heroes, and monsters. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.